So I played that. One of the cops sees the castanets in my trunk, picks it up. Another guy sees a bendir, which is a frame drum.
No.
And we jammed for 15 minutes. And then he put the instruments back. He gave my license back. He's like, have a good day, sir.
I love it.
That's beautiful.
Musical bakshish. Musical corruption.
That's musical corruption.
Amazing.
Bribery by
story
music.
is-
This is one of my closest friends in the world, Amino Belyamani. Here he is, not knowing how the piano works. You're supposed to put both hands on the keys, dude. Born in North Africa, Amino grew up with a rare disorder that causes kids to have too many, cuteness genes in their face or something. I don't know, but he grew out of it and moved to California to study music, which is how we met. This is us at graduation. And here we are during the most creative of all holidays, President's Day. I'm kidding, it's Halloween. Amino's part of the world-famous yet somehow still underground trio Dawn of Midi, who never can quite remember where they parked the car. This is them playing to a few close friends, and I'm not jealous. Amino's part of the traditional and innovative group Innov Ganawa. Sometimes they go to the Grammys together. I'm not jealous. We also played traditional music from Ghana in a group called Bedstai Ewe. This guy is one of the most passionate, devoted, and sincere musicians on the planet, which is why we're really happy to have him as our first guest on our very brand new show. Now, we're not filmmakers and we're figuring all of this out on the fly, but we really do hope you enjoy. So, Amino, welcome to the show. I'm really excited. I'm quite nervous. This is the first one we've done, and you were the first guest I wanted to have, and the first guest we had.
So the only guest you'll ever have.
Yeah. This is going to be the first and the last show.
Why do you want Amino to be the first guest?
Well, it's great to have the first person that you want, to get a yes. That's a real way to start a show. But also, and he owes me because I've taken him to the airport 900 times.
Absolutely.
But also, I find Amino to be one of the most fascinating musicians I've ever met in my life. Not just because of his background, but also because of his knowledge in so many different areas. And every time we talk, every time we're in the car, we have the wildest conversations. So no pressure, but that's what
My pleasure. Thank you, Ocean.
So the first question I have, I'm going to hit you right off the bat. First question of the entire show, I'm going to name drop right off the bat. What was it like to open for Radiohead in front of 30,000 people at Madison Square Garden?
Wow.
Okay, wait, scratch that question. Forget that. Was any of it gig's a gig? Was any of it just strangely, unusually
Well, here's
normal?
the thing. We played 2 shows in a row. So if we had only played one, I would probably have a different answer. But since we played 2 shows, the first show was like, oh my God, this is happening. But the second night, it was a regular gig.
Yeah.
That's how quickly you...
What part of it was normal? The green room, the sound check?
Yeah. I mean, the sound check, wow, that was kind of crazy. I mean, imagine that big hall, 20,000 people, and Qasim's bass drum, and just low frequency. The muted piano is also low. Everything sits between 0 and 200 hertz. So it's imagine how to deal with that. But we had a great sound guy, and he did an amazing job. But it was kind of terrifying to play our piece, which is so low frequency focused, in a big hall like that.
And for anybody that doesn't know, we're talking about the group Dawn of Midi.
Yes,
which
that's
you're
right.
a third of. And
with Qasim and Akash is running, yep.
And this was a piece called Dysnomia.
That's right.
Which is 45, 50-minute piece.
Yep, 47-minute.
With an acoustic piano trio. Piano, upright bass, and drums.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say that, are people going to have in their mind what it actually is? Are they going to have an accurate version of what I'm talking about?
No, absolutely not.
No.
And it goes the other way around.
Eleven's trio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very unusual. So,
And it goes the other way around too, where people that don't know us and haven't read our bio or what our description, they just hear it, they just think immediately it's electronic music until they find out that it's acoustic.
Yeah, it sounds like to me at first listen like it could be something that's in a club, like at a techno club, EDM kind of thing. But then I see you guys playing it and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So here's my question. You guys worked on this for how long before it was ready to record?
I mean, the actual content of the piece, the album, not the whole process that led to there, just the content, probably a year.
Yeah, I think it was longer, right?
Well,
You
longer
worked on
was
it 2.5
if
years or something.
you
like
if you
this?
include the process. We did a whole other album that we scratched. Akash flew to Australia to get mixed and mastered. We threw it in the garbage bin.
What the hell is going on in this piece? Because I can hear Gnawa music. Is that accurate?
Yes, there's sections that have that like the castanet rhythm.
Or at least like influence. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And Ewe, which is West
Yep,
African
West African,
stuff.
North African, a lot of those.
Sure, and also EDM, techno type music.
Absolutely,
whatever you
yeah.
want to call that. But when I listen to it, it sounds like if Steve Reich had played with a rubber band a little too long. What is going on in this piece? How is it changing from section to section without like quantifiable rhythms? It seems like things are stretching and pulling, and none of this was written down. Is that right? It's all composed.
Yeah, all composed and learned by ear. Every now and then we had like these MIDI like sample loops that we would use as reference to rehearse, but that's it. Nothing was written in notes because it wouldn't make sense anyways, because it comes from another language, it doesn't come from Western music. So right. Approximating them with eighth notes or 16th note or triplets even is not really that accurate.
Didn't you tell me one time that's kind of what Steve Reich was kind of doing? Wasn't he studying West African music?
He studied in Ghana. I mean, I don't know all the details about that, but I know he went and spent some time in Ghana and even got to meet our mutual professor, Alfred Ladzekpo, the Ladzekpos, the whole family there, who were, then our mentors at CalArts. So he definitely was influenced by that. And then I personally, being someone that played the piece, 18 music for 18 musicians.
I didn't know you played that.
Yeah, I played that back at CalArts those years. Yeah, it was really fun. And then I got to really be deep with the parts, and there's the bell pattern all over the place, except that it's mostly felt in 3. Where in West African music, and I don't like to use the word Africa, we all know it's a huge continent, but there are some Pan-African things, and there's a Pan-African language of rhythm, and regardless of if you have 3s in it, the fundamental feel of where the pulse is, the real pulse, is 4, always, regardless.
Or 12, can you
12, but that's the subdividing, but the 4, meaning who is dancing, watch them,
right,
and then see what the pulse is.
Right.
And even if it's a slow pulse, it'll be 2, meaning it's half time of the 4. They'll never dance in 3. The 3 is there, but as a polyrhythm. The 6 is there as a polyrhythm, and then you can have some deep stuff, and that's when I incorporated the North African stuff in Dysnomia, where I incorporated some of the 5 stuff. But again, it's not like 5 in Western music. It's 5, 12, 8, 5. So it's still 4.
With kind of a swing, is that sort of what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like tack 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 tack. That's the 4, but still it's like a 5 going on in there, but over the 4. It's really crazy.
I'll admit that when we started playing the AWA music at CalArts, like 2005 is when I started. It took me about a year or maybe 15 years to really hear it in 4. Okay, so why do we do this stupid thing that we do, this silly tens of thousands of hours that we give to this thing with no idea how it's going to turn out? Like, maybe we'll be rich. Kat, you could write a Christmas song and make $1 million every year, but maybe nothing ever happens. And it seems like such a silly thing. I tell people I blow air through a curved cylindrical alloy tube. That's what I do for my life.
Sorry.
What are we even trying to do here? What is this all about? Every culture on the planet has this. Not every culture invented democracy on their own. Not every culture even has sports. That was fascinating for me to find out.
Right.
But why are we doing this thing? Maybe even personally, why do you do it? Why do you spend all of this time doing it? Or why do we do it as a people? I know it's a broad question.
It's like, in a way, why is music in every culture since all of human history?
Yeah, we've never found a culture that didn't have it that we know of.
And I don't know if we know the answer to this question. I think it's an impossible thing to answer, except if we're going to get really, esoteric, you could think, basically we are music. We are sound because our cells are vibrating. Everything's vibrating. And what is sound? Vibrating.
Sure.
Vibration.
Oh, well,
it's necessary for human. It's human nature. We need music, sound.
You're a new mother, and so I kind of want to say this to you, but it blew my mind a few years ago to find out that they think that the first perception that we were ever aware of was probably our mother's heartbeat, which doesn't go gut.
There's a swing.
There's a swing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Don't. but don't. And you're warm, but you don't know what warm and cold is. And it's dark, but you don't know what dark and white is. But you hear that. It must have been a very profound thing to hear that is rhythm all of a sudden. So what about personally? Why do you do this after all these years? You're a very intelligent person. You could have done so many other things in life. Why not president?
Well, I mean, obviously it's something that is in you since a very young age, and I was kind of raised in a musical family. My father's autodidact. That's how you say it in English. Autodidact in
I'm
French.
Say, yeah, I don't
Meaning
know
he
what you're
learned, he's
talking
self-taught music, even though that's not his profession, and he plays multiple instruments. And so I grew up around that. He had all these jazz records and all this stuff, and then being the youngest of three siblings, three guys, so like they were always in advance because they were 9 years older than me and playing music. So I was always in that environment. So for me, it was no question.
But
music,
none of them dedicated their life to it. I mean, a team, yes.
each one to their extent. My eldest brother, Monsef, you met, he was the DJ for many years.
But not like you.
No, yeah, I mean, different, in a different way. And
so why did we get the bug in the way that we did? Because listen, I would.
It's like identity. It becomes a part of your identity. It's hard to shed that no matter what you do.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a sort of a dichotomy, right? Because musicians are always kind of talking it down like it's sort of a silly little thing. Oh, I got a gig, no big deal. At MSG, no big deal. 30,000 people. But also, if you asked me, would I rather lose both of my legs or this pinky, I would choose both of my legs. I don't mean to say that disrespectfully to anyone with a disability, but I swear to God, I would rather lose both of my legs than not be able to have this pinky to play the saxophone. I could lose this thumb, but not this pinky. So
it's not just music for you, it's your instrument, the saxophone. You wouldn't be like, oh, shoot, I guess I'll just... I don't know, be a DJ or I'll be a vocalist.
I mean, I probably would try to keep it going. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, why did you guys get the bug in the way that you did? That you would give your life to this without any plan in the future of what is going to happen?
It's for the feeling of it, the pleasure in a way. It's like a pleasure principle.
There you go. Yeah.
The feeling of that feeling that you can't describe when you're playing music or when you're listening to something that really, really excites you and really gets you really into it in a deep way, then you always want to seek that feeling again, over and over again. Yeah. So that's why sometimes...
It's like when you have a passion.
Yeah. It's passion, yeah.
Yeah.
How different do you think musicians are from normal people? We were at your birthday a week ago, and here's 5 grown men having some drinks, and we stopped to listen to music, and nobody talked. Mm-hmm. You know, most people don't do this at all. We're obviously insane. You have to be insane to pursue this. We're neurotic people. Do you think that we're like complete like aliens on the planet? Is that what we're like, or is it just like athletes? Like we're just something a little slightly different?
I mean, most likely we're aliens. Yeah. I mean, imagine like if actual aliens were to come on Earth, but they have a different kind of DNA markup that doesn't allow them to hear sound, but they can see air. All they would see is like, for example, going to Madison Square Garden, the alien shows up, they can't hear anything, but they would just see that people are sitting down watching these people in stage vibrating the air on stage, and then all of a sudden they clap, and so then the audience vibrates the air. They'll be like, what the hell are these guys doing? Because everything else they would see a purpose. Some guy drilling, getting the oil out, or whatever activity. You'd be like, that's for that. But then going to a venue, aliens would be like, what are they doing?
Nonsense. Complete poppycock.
It probably would make amazing patterns, the airwaves all mixing with one another. Yeah.
Let's talk just a little bit quickly about your background, which is very unique. So you're from North Africa.
Yep, Morocco, Casablanca.
Were you born in Casablanca?
Yep.
And how you got into music because of your family, basically.
Yep.
And what were you studying? Were you studying jazz or canal
music?
I
started at the age of 6, straight up classical. I had a great professor that taught me all those years until I left Morocco after high school. She was unbelievable and taught me a lot, and was always just classical, of course.
Right.
And at home, my dad is improvising, playing like Errol Garner, or playing Boogie Woogie, or like Beatles. He's a big Beatles fan, but I could see that without reading or without anything, he can't read music. He could make stuff up, and he would do these chords that then later I figured out, he's just doing a diminished over that or whatever. But then growing up, I had no idea. It was like magic to me.
Wow.
And that's how it is, I think, for a lot of people that don't know that that music is an approachable thing, just like any other thing. You just gotta like, from top down, like start general and then build your kind of like focus until you really can master the language. It's kind of like speaking a new language, you know. First you have to think about the verb, the subject and all that, and then it just flows naturally.
And your first move was to Paris, is that right? Your first big move in life? What was the Paris Conservatory like? Was that a nurturing environment for your creative spirit?
It was great. I had several professors there that shaped a lot of my technique and stuff. But again, like, and I think we should probably talk about this. I was really frustrated to see that everyone is playing these 200-300-year-old pieces, but nobody really understands what's going on. Meaning, like, they don't know what the changes are, so to speak, like jazz lingo. Yeah. They're just playing these pieces without knowing that, oh, that's what's going on. Like Chopin, Bach, all of that is just like any other music, just like jazz. They're playing changes. And so I was feeling so ignorant in that way. And so my second year in Paris, because I deferred my acceptance to CalArts. I didn't want to go straight there to CalArts. I was too young, I felt, which was a good decision, as you may know. Like how
you would have ended up in prison or dead if I'd went to 18
Let's not go there. So anyway, so my second year in Paris, I deferred my CalArts acceptance, and I was like, I really need to start understanding these harmonies and the theory behind stuff, and not just playing technically. And so I took this class with this guy at the conservatory called Vincent Bourgex, great jazz pianist from France. And he was like, oh, play me something. I would play him like a Bohemian Rhapsody of Liszt or one of those things, like to impress him. And he'd be like, oh yeah, can you make it swing? Can you play a blues? Can you just play a 12-bar blues? I was like, nope. And he's like, see, you can play all this, but you can't even play a 12-bar simple blues. And then he rocked my world and said, this is what you need to do. You got to work these scales. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do that.
But you kind of rebelled to CalArts. Isn't that right? Didn't you tell me once that it was kind of like, this is too stuffy, you know?
Yeah. The super avant-garde academic stuff got a little too dry for me because I was so interested in, to me, the stuff that was still fresh to my ears, which is like anything from Impressionism to today. Without the academic stuff, to me that's still fresh, like Debussy, Ravel, Fauré, Shostakovich. I mean, like, it's unbelievable that there was, and not everything has been said in those styles yet. That, well, let's just disregard everything and just have silence, like 4 minutes 33. You know, it's great philosophically, but to me, music still had so much to say. So that was my frustration. Yeah.
And how different was CalArts than the Paris Conservatory?
Totally different, but it was the right move at the right time. Like, I don't regret anything.
I mean, the first week I was there, I saw people walking around naked.
Yeah, definitely.
A guy was smoking marijuana in the hallway during the school day.
Yeah,
right by the dean's office.
Yeah, passing whiskey bottle drink class.
Look, I like to tell people these stories. You know, the story about the guys cutting each other for their final project. Yeah. But I want to say that, like, people are studying Bach, they're studying Rachmaninoff, they're studying Charlie Parker. It's not just out there loopy stuff. Like, it was really astute what people were doing.
Right.
So
it's a college for adults, really. You can't go there to just want to, like, have fun or slack around or do any of that. If you're an adult, then you'll find the value in certain classes, in the professors, in the facilities. Oh my God, 24/7, you can record anything. I had for a whole semester, I don't know if you remember, my own piano with the sticker of my name on it, and I had the key, and it was tuned to quarter tones.
Right.
I would wheel it out to the main gallery. Animators are walking in and out of their cubicles at night, and I'm like playing these weird maqams and stuff.
We all play a bunch of different kinds of music. We're not one of those people that just plays bebop or something like that. Do you guys ever get jealous of people who just sort of tunneled straight for one thing? Like, I'm a rock guitarist and that's all I'm ever going to be, or I'm a bebop saxophonist. I'm going to sound like Coltrane. I'm going to study Coltrane my whole life. Do you ever get jealous of that, or are you really more?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
No, I mean, for you, yes, for me.
I go back and forth. I get kind of jealous sometimes. I wouldn't do it any other way.
I just wish there was more time in the day.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because you spent all this time studying classical music, and now you're studying various wide ranges of genres. Like, how do you even decide what you're going to practice?
It's overwhelming. It's a very good question. Sometimes it gets a little chaotic. Where in a practice session, I'll be doing all sorts of stuff that doesn't even really make sense. So it's hard to. You gotta focus, and that's one of my weaknesses. Like, the planning out your exercise routine or being more disciplined that way. I'm just more of a intuitive, spontaneous, and so when there's so many ideas in my mind, I could be all over the place.
Likewise, I can relate.
So I've been watching this for about a year. I've been watching this YouTuber named Nari Soul, who's a pianist and a composer, and she does these like 10-minute pieces on how to sound like Debussy. And unlike most people who would say pentatonics, whole tone, and planing, which I could show you, saxophonists that do pentatonics, whole tone, and planing, they do not sound like Debussy. She actually goes for like the gesture of the artist and says, no, Debussy stretches out his melodies. That's why you sound like Debussy. You do these kind of Okay, so I was watching her about a month ago. She was talking about how to sound like Rachmaninoff, and she said, there's this rhythm that you need to get used to. It's a galloping rhythm, like da-dun, 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 and then sometimes he flips it, dun, da-dun, da-dun, and he puts it together, da-dun, da-dun, dun, da-dun, and I immediately went to wash dishes, and I put on Ariana Grande, because that's what I do when I clean my house. I like pop music.
That's hilarious.
Makes me feel good. And I heard her use this rhythm. It's da-dun, da-dun, dun, da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. And so my question to you, as the most knowledgeable person I've ever met about rhythm, without a doubt, here's my question is, what's up with rhythm?
Well, I think rhythm is probably the most sacred. Up with rhythm? It's the most sacred thing to me. Not to me like you know what I mean, like in music, I would say, because it's time, and there's no other art form, we've talked about this many times, that deals with time in this way, where it's a fraction of a second, and that's it, the train has gone. The musical statement or event that would have happened can no longer happen. It's not like even with quantum where there's possibilities. It's done because time went by. And so rhythm is embellishing that concept, because it's with time. It's the intervals of time. It's closer interval combined with a longer interval, closer interval, while over that time is going by. And so that's why it's so deep, because time is one of the most mysterious things.
Until we could have these things and recording devices, that moment would be lost forever, never to be heard again.
Yeah, that's pretty special. Actually.
Melody, you can stretch it out, still the same. Rubato, opera, whatever, you can speed it up. It's still, you have the thing. Harmony as well. You can reharmonize it. Rhythm, as soon as you do one change, it's an entirely different thing.
Why is it so hard for students to practice rhythm? And
it's the hardest thing to teach.
It's the hardest thing to teach. Everyone has it in them. I'm even thinking piano specific. Piano students sight read something, myself included. You're working on the melody. You don't want to mess up the notes. It's with the rhythm. No one cares about it. What's going on?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, all my students have this problem. They can play stuff, but the time is not there.
Absolutely. It's hard to do that over Zoom, too. It's the hardest thing that I've done.
Definitely.
Fair.
Teaching over Zoom, I can teach them the notes, and I'm kind of like, all right, you got it.
I think it's because it's the hardest thing. That's why. It's because of that thing. Like I said, it's unforgiving. It's not even if you're a half a second late. No, it's like an atomic second.
Everyone feels it too. Everyone feels it.
Yeah, it's unforgiving. There's no way. That's why I love playing Gnawa music so much, because it's like we're 6 or 7 guys, castanets, and it's unison. And if there's one slight atomic second
and you can't think too much about it. When I play the bell with you, and you do something on the master drum, the lead drum, if I stop to think too much, it's done. It's over. It's a train wreck. Okay, it's time for our special segment. This is called Wish I'd Known Then. We're going to try to do this every episode. We'll see. This is a segment about something you've learned that you'd like to share, something that you wish you'd known earlier. Probably about music, but it could be about music business. It could be about life. Maybe it's about dedication or devotion to something. I don't care. Anything that you wish a 16-year-old Amino or 20-year-old or 30-year-old or whatever would have known.
Well, definitely that I wish I knew earlier that the music business is very ruthless, and you have to read your contracts and make sure you...
Sounds like there's some experience behind that.
Make sure you own what you create. I mean, where's the camera? Own your masters. Own your masters.
Nice. That's great.
That's the number one key. And of course, when you're young and you're naive and you're excited, the label comes along and it's like, hey, we want to sign you if you feel that's great. But I mean, I remember Prince talked about this in an interview. He made maybe a little extreme analogy, but he related it to slavery. And that's what it is. Like, the labels are the masters. And
well, he has an arc. They just opened the vault, and they're going to start releasing. He's got like 30,000 songs or something that nobody's ever heard.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's right.
Other projects coming up?
Yeah, well, not coming up, but there's one that we just released. We're excited about it with the Gnawa band that I participate in. It's called Enough Gnawa, and the album is called Lila, and it's on Daptone Records from Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings and all that. It's a great label.
You guys own the masters? We celebrated your birthday a week ago today, and we were driving back at night from Queens in good spirits, and we were driving past that big skyline view of Manhattan, and you and I geeked out on it like we've done for 12 years. I mean, just like we had just moved here that day. Like, oh my God.
Always feels
like, look how beautiful. How much do you love Brooklyn?
Oh, like home.
Yeah.
Just like home. Like when I go back home to Morocco, Casablanca, that feels like home. But when I then leave Casablanca to fly back to New York, when I land in New York, it feels also that same feeling like, going home.
When you're in Casablanca, do you feel like you miss New York, or you're just there and you're happy?
Well, in the first 2 weeks, obviously that's full family time, catch up, which I missed it so much. All my energy is there, but then within the third or fourth week, start missing home, which is Brooklyn. It's really funny how it did that to me. Well, LA never did that to me, even though CalArts was one of my best times of my life there. I learned so much and met all you guys, but
CalArts isn't LA.
But it never felt like home, though.
Right, me neither.
Never.
I have a friend who's in the Air Force Band. He just retired. He's my age. He got a 20-year pension, and I hate it. I hate him. Yeah,
that's a good gig.
He's a tuba player, and he's traveled the world playing concerts all around the world, and he's been everywhere, and he's played music everywhere. And I mean, Berlin, Paris, all of this. And he says when he visits here that he's never seen a place where art lives and grows like it does in New York. And I'm thinking of names like Gershwin and Bukowski, Jackson Pollock, Joni Mitchell, Jimi Hendrix, the invention of hip hop. I mean, when I hear that when I hear that somebody is from, like I just heard the other day, Timothy Chalamet was on SNL, and he's kind of the big actor, and he's like, my mom's here, I grew up in New York, and I'm like, I'm never surprised. Why is this place like this when, say, Chicago is a lovely town with great music scene, and I love it, but it's not exactly like this here. Why is this the place that does that?
Well, I don't know, it might sound corny, but it's diversity.
Yeah.
That's what I think. It's you put people from different backgrounds, cultures, with different riches. That's what it is. When you talk about different background, everyone has this richness that's unique, and if you bring that into a concentrated place where, it's like there's 8 million people, I think, in the 5 boroughs. I don't know. It's like
it's 6 to 11, depending on the day and who is here to work.
So it's bound to have some amazing things happen, and also the negative things, which is like this dirty side of New York. Sure. It looks like a third world country and everything, but that's the price you pay for getting amazing results of that melting pot.
Yeah. Lorne Michaels of Saturday Night Live said that his show couldn't have happened anywhere else, and the reason he gave was because New York is not impressed. Like, these actors, no matter if you're Adam Sandler, if you go into the coffee shop the next day, the guy might say, hey, your show wasn't so good last night. You know what I mean? Do you think that's a big part of it? That New York is like, congratulations, standing ovation, what's next? Sort of
it sets the bar.
The expectation.
Well, everybody around you is doing so many things, they're off to the next thing. You don't want to be left behind.
That's well put. What is Moroccan Tapes?
Oh, yeah. That's one of my recent projects I launched last year. It's basically an online database of Moroccan cassette tapes of that certain era, as old as 50s, 60s when I can find them, but mostly 70s and 80s, some 90s, of music that you wouldn't find elsewhere otherwise. It's hard to find, so I was like, I'm sure there's some people out there that are interested, and of course the majority of my subscribers are from Morocco, because they're all interested in that, but I also have a bunch in America too. They're really interested, and so I keep updating it and uploading new tapes and have little descriptions about each tape, and it's free, and you can download the art cover also for each tape and all that, and so it's a project that's really dear to me.
It's like an archive of music?
Yep.
Music that you can't really find on Spotify, is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And why is it important to you to get that music to the world?
Well, because like
obvious.
everywhere else, you have this phenomenon where sometimes the young generation is not so interested in keeping certain traditions. So there's some of that in Morocco. We're very blessed that Morocco is a very uniquely rich cultural country where every village has its own like world and their own, you know, gospel and their own like what do you call it? Spiritual like
Signature.
Yeah. It's really crazy, very rich, but there's also some that is lost, and the young generation is not particularly interested in preserving that. So like by having these tapes digitized, hey buddy, by having them digitized,
I wish he had his own chair. I really do, with the microphone and everything. I really wish he could.
Then yeah, you know, at least we can preserve some of them, because some of those tapes are things that not even. Yeah, no, you can't even go and find those musicians that play it. Not only you can't find it on Spotify, but because some of that music, that's it. It's like kind of gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's great. You both play with a lot of space when you play, and that seems to cultivate kind of meaningful gestures, like melodies, rather than just lines or licks or whatever. But when I go out, I don't hear a lot of people playing with space, especially in New York. It seems like it's fill the space, fill the space. The drummer's playing on every beat, the bass player's playing on every beat. Why are people scared of the dark? Like, why is it that you're very patient when you perform, when you improvise, you're very patient. You wait for the thing to come. What is the secret to that? Or what put that in you? Was it playing all these different kinds of music? Was it?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, the piano's so resonant. You don't need to play one note and then you're just still listening to that beautiful note.
Exactly. It's really beautiful with just a few notes already to start with.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
But also like because you're trying to tell a story, and you know you got to go step at a time. And if you just give all your ideas at once, it won't be a story. It's just like you're just spewing out like verses. It's like somebody that's reciting Romeo and Juliet and like all over the place, instead of like, you know, in these times in fair Verona or whatever, how it starts. You know, it's like that's the same thing. Piano, you're gonna start with a very simple thing and take your time telling a story.
Maybe you're feeling the space around you. I do that a lot.
I think I think you should teach lessons just on that to people, to professional musicians. Just teach how to feel the space and be present, rather than fill the space.
Something like that.
This is called This Really Happened. Tell us a story.
Oh, this really happened. All right, well, it's around circa 2006.
Oh, I remember that. That was a very good year.
Yeah, during those 3 months in the summer where I'm back home in Morocco after you took me to the airport. And I'm traveling back from the north. It's a spot in the north where the Mediterranean is in Morocco. It's one of my favorite spots. I always go there. So I was done with that. I was on my way back from the north back to Casablanca, alone in the car, and a ton of instruments in the trunk and stuff like that, and just enough money to pay the tolls to get to Casablanca. And I get pulled over by a cop for speeding, and he checks also the other documents, like the inspection, the equivalent of the inspection, and it was expired, and he's like, you have speeding and expired. If it was just the speeding, I would have let you go. I was like, well, what do you want me to do? I don't have money, I just have the money for the tolls. Look, you know how much the tolls cost to get to Casablanca? This is, I showed him, I counted every coin. He's like, well, alright, come with me. So already this is like, for anyone who's not used to Moroccan style, this is outrageous. We're crossing the highway. You know, there's people driving at 100 miles an hour. We're crossing because, you know, the guy that caught me on the speeding, the camera radar, is in the island in between the two ways of the highway. So we're crossing to go there to talk with the guy that was on the camera. So we're getting close, and there are 3 of them by the camera. So now it's me and the cop that stopped me, crossing the highway like at high speeds to go join these guys in the middle of the island thing. And as we're getting closer, like, hey, what's wrong with this guy? Oh, he has a speeding ticket and he didn't pay he didn't do his inspection. Oh, all right. So we get closer and everything, and then he's like, come here. What do you do? I was like, I'm a student. What do you study? I study abroad, music. And then he looks at his friend. He looks back at me. What do you study? I was like, and it's way funnier in Arabic, obviously. But what do you study? And I'm like, music. He looks at his friend. He's like, this guy's joking with us? Dude, what do you study? And I was like, I study music. He's like, there's such a thing?
Oh my God.
Studying music? And I was like, yeah, it's music. We study all sorts of stuff. Western, this, our music, Arabic, whatever you name it. But it's studying music. And he's like, I don't believe you. This guy is like joking with us. I was like, if you don't believe me, I have instruments in my trunk. Come and see, and I'll play for you. And then now this is another like Kodak moment. Nobody was there to film this. Amazing. Now they leave the camera alone, meaning anyone who wants to speed at that point can speed. So now there's 4 cops with me crossing again the highway. And they left the camera there. And now this scene is unbelievable. I open the trunk and I sit like this on the trunk. So now I'm facing opposite the highway. So imagine people driving down the highway. They're driving and seeing this guy sitting on a trunk with a drum under his hand, between his knees, and 4 cops standing beside him like that. I was imagining, what are they thinking is going on? And so I start playing a typical shabby rhythm, like popular Moroccan rhythm on a drum. And then
how does it go?
Like
one.
Yeah,
1.
Very 12/8. Anyways.
It took me 4 years to learn that.
I know.
Where 1 is.
So I played that. One of the cops sees the castanets in my trunk, picks it up. Another guy sees a bendir, which is a frame drum.
No.
And we jammed for 15 minutes. And then he put the instruments back. He gave my license back. He's like, have a good day, sir.
Oh, I love it.
That's beautiful.
Musical bakshish. Musical corruption.
That's musical corruption.
Amazing.
Bribery
This
by
story
music.
is-
That's beautiful.
it will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
But the most important thing about this story is the fact that these guys are cops, and they could play these rhythms with me. And this is why they were shocked that you could study music, because for them music is new. It's natural. Everybody's a musician, but you could be a doctor or a blacksmith or a carpenter, but you're a musician also.
I mean, it's new for humanity.
Yeah.
Like now you can be a musician, but it's kind of a new profession in a way. Everybody was a musician before.
Exactly. And so is these cops.
Yeah.
Highway patrol cops. They killed that rhythm.
Our featured venue today is the Owl Music Parlor in Prospect Lefferts Gardens, Brooklyn. The Owl is owned and run by Oren Blodo, an incredible musician whose band Elysian Fields has been breaking boundaries and cutting edges for decades without compromise. Since Oren is such an amazing musician, he created his club as a place not only great to see and hear music, but one that musicians would truly love to play in. The Owl is intimate, looks great, sounds great, is really close to the train and easy to get to, and the bill is full of vibrant, diverse, highly creative, real musicians, which is why we wanted to urge people to support it. So come to the Owl and support local music. You won't regret it.